What a strange feeling it is to get everything that you want and still feel empty. Why is that? Why is it that I achieved the things that I wanted to achieve? And now there's a feeling of emptiness, that the gap needs filling of some sort. Very strange feeling. I imagine that many others who became successful, that we see on the news, that we see on social media. George Michael was one of my favorite superstars on the planet, and he was one of the most troubled men, even post his insane success. One of the biggest stars of pop in all time. Michael Jackson, another extremely troubled man in his later age, died young. Whitney Houston, one of the most talented singers, my favorite singer of all time, my favorite female singer of all time. Her voice is unmatched. Extremely troubled woman, died young. It seems to be a common trend. Matthew Perry from Friends died in a ketamine overdose of some sort in his hot tub, apparently. Suffered with depression his whole life. Seems to be a common thread amongst people. Whether you're poor or you're rich, whether you have no status or have very high status, I don't think that successful people are as happy as you actually think they are. But of course, the illusion is to make as much money as possible and to be as comfortable as possible. And I get that because that's what's sold on social media. That's what's sold in society. It's been sold since the dawn of time, right? It really has. And especially now, it's getting pushed down your throat. Nice car and nice house. And the new wealth is freedom. And I understand that. And everyone wants that level of freedom. And that was the first thing I put on my what do I want list when I worked for Google back in 2013 to 2015. In 2015, at the beginning of that year, I wrote, what do I want? And I left that sheet of paper next to my bed. And I wrote two things. And the first thing I wrote two words only. And the first word, it took me a whole week to write two words. Imagine, what do I want? 2 words I managed in a whole week. The first word was freedom. The second word, surprised myself with this one, was sunshine. That it was that important for me to have sunshine in my life. Perhaps because I feel more confident when I'm tanned, perhaps because I feel like I look better. Those are the reasons why, I would imagine so. But freedom, I know why I wrote that down. Now, I didn't write Lamborghini, Ferrari, 1 billion. I didn't write any of that, right? I wrote 2 words. And the reason I do those activities is to learn about myself and what I really want. The key to life is to learning and mastering yourself, trying to get to know yourself as best as possible. So that was back in 2015. Bang, I achieved it. Literally a year later. 1 year later, achieved it, traveled to wherever I wanted, was free and had money, and the business was churning a good cash flow at the time. That was my digital marketing agency after I worked for Google. Then, fast forward, 4 years later, 5 years later to 2020 or 2021, I believe it was like 6 years later, I was sitting in LA, and I got to LA on like the 3rd of January, after Christmas with my family. And I remember taking a puff on an extremely strong joint that afternoon. Excuse me, something stuck in my throat. And I cried tears of joy in my bed at 7, 8 p.m. in LA. I was staying in Venice Beach. I was staying on the Broadwalk. And it was the best location, and I'd achieved the dream, and I was literally crying. I was crying tears of joy. I was probably stoned out of my mind, but the point is it got me closer to whatever I was really thinking, and I was crying tears of joy in bed. Because I felt like, wow, I achieved it. What a beautiful feeling. That feeling is very fleeting. Right? You have that feeling, but it's hard to maintain that feeling every single day. Joy and happiness, and bang, I take this with me, and I'm happy for the rest of my life. No. That's not how things work. Now, the second time I decided was on that LA trip, I also wrote, I was like, I haven't done this for a while. What do I want? Put it on my bedside table. And again, there was 2 bullet points that were written. And I've got it somewhere. I saved these pieces of paper. Maybe the first one I've got rid of, but the second one I've got somewhere in London, in the family house, somewhere dug away. And it said, again, funnily enough, it said, sunshine. When I'm tanned, I have super high confidence. I want this super high confidence every day, right? So I wrote that down. So funny how such a small thing made me feel so good. Like being tan gave me super high confidence. But you understand why a man would want super high confidence, right? You want super high confidence all the effing time. And the second thing I wrote on there was to share my story with the world, to share my wisdom, because I see so much pain and suffering. That's what I wrote. That was 4 years ago, 2021 now. Fast forward, I have an Instagram page where I pour my heart out and I have stories and I show a lifestyle. And thousands of people view that, right? Every day, thousands of people view my life every day. But more recently, a year and a half ago, I started the YouTube channel, which I find I resonate with much more. I resonate with you guys way more than I resonate with the Instagram guys. And perhaps on my Instagram, it's too much about lifestyle, showy, and I give off a certain persona. And it looks like I've kind of exaggerated my brand there on Instagram because you're sort of selling something. You're like, oh, look at my life. It's so amazing. And it is, but like, I don't have to like shove it down your throat with like 6-pack pictures and stuff. So I felt like a bit of a douche sometimes with my Instagram posts, but with my YouTube, because I can be honest and I can just sit here on camera and talk to you and help you ultimately from my wisdom and my pain and my mistakes and my successes, right? So my experiences will help you and will make you hopefully feel better. Not that I'm not Andrew Tate saying I've got a Bugatti, you're broke, and I'm the man and I'm happy. Like, that's bullshit, right? That guy's life, I don't know if you want that guy's life. It is hectic and governments are up his arse, and it's a very fast-paced life, and not all of you are suited for the fast-paced life. I'm suited to it to some degree, but definitely I wouldn't want his lifestyle on a regular basis. I like my calm, beautiful life. I like being able to sit here on a Wednesday and make a video on YouTube. So after I wrote what I want, the second time, I achieved that as well. When I look back now, I've achieved it to a certain degree, of course. I achieved freedom to a certain degree from the first time I did that exercise. Now, obviously, your story to be told to the world, you could be telling it to thousands of people, you could be telling it to millions of people, you could be telling it to 1 billion people. But if you're going to set the tone that high, you're never really going to achieve those goals. It's nice to dream big, and I'll continue to. So why is that relevant? Today, I'm sitting down and doing Vision Board 2025. So it's time that I did this exercise again about finding out what I want. And why is that the case? Because it is a strange feeling of emptiness that even after achieving this stuff, there's still something missing. It's the weirdest feeling. And I guess the learnings are, it doesn't matter what you achieve and what you have to keep going. You have to have this endless desire as a man to wanting to keep winning, to want to keep going, to keep setting your goals and achieving them. And it's ultimately, it is a hamster wheel where you just keep setting the goals and you might achieve them, you might not. But if you keep circling like so, and you do that until you're dead, is that really it? Is that the dream life? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. Perhaps that's why I have become closer to God and feeling like there must be something bigger out there for me that I must accept and feel whole. And when I meditate, and I did my affirmations this morning, I didn't meditate this morning, I did my affirmations. I jumped on YouTube and I found speaking affirmations for 30 minutes while I did a few house chores to just clean up the house, make sure everything looks good. I can't work in a dirty house. And the affirmations worked, and they did make me feel good. And then here in the afternoon, I've brought up my Vision Board 2025, but again, I felt, a feeling of like, what really is this? I am very introspective. I'm really trying to figure this life out, and I document it as I go along. And it's a strange feeling, that feeling of emptiness. But I guess so many other people who have been so successful. I remember Jim Carrey said this. He said, I wish everyone was rich and successful like me, so you would realize that's not the answer. I think that's a beautiful way to end this video. I think I respect Jim Carrey for being so honest, and we need more of those people to step up and to say, we have our struggles. We find it difficult, and the answer is to keep strong as a man and keep going. God would want you to keep going and to not give up. And maybe there is no meaning or there is no purpose. The purpose is to keep going as best as you can.